Hello, everyone. Welcome to Pilots for Truth Radio. We're talking with Dwane Deets based on our latest article we put out. NASA flight director confirms 9/11 aircraft speed as the elephant in the room. We were going to do an interview together prior to the article, which we did. We spoke for about 2 hours and put the article together, but I never recorded the interview, so we're just doing a quick follow-up and to the article itself and clear up any confusion that might be out there. Dwane Deets, like we said, used to work for NASA. He's he's a former director for aerospace projects at the NASA Dryden Flight Research Center. Served as director, research engineering division at Dryden. He's a recipient of the NASA Exceptional Service Award, Presidential Meritorious Rank Award, and the Senior Executive Service. The list goes on and on and on. Worked with flight control systems at NASA, so he's very versed in what these speeds and why manufacturers set speed limitations on aircraft. And I guess after you saw our presentation and the speeds that are reported by the NTSB, it kind of raised an eyebrow for you, huh, Dwane?
It certainly did. It kind of brought it into focus for me and certainly tweaked my interest.
Yeah, that's a lot of people are feeling the same way. We have, of course, Captain Ralph Kolstad and Captain Rusty Amir, both of which have time in the actual aircraft, all four aircraft that were reportedly used on 9/11, and once they saw these speeds, they were just like, no way. And of course, we have aeronautical engineer and captain at JetBlue Airlines, Captain Jeff Lottis, who's speaking out about it, and the list goes on and on and on. So there seems to be a little bit of confusion out there based on this article that we wrote together. I just want to clarify for people that are listening that Dwane, you approved the article. Is that correct?
Well, you asked me to look at the article. This is after we spoke a little bit, so I more or less expected to see what you wrote down.
Right.
And I read it through. I did have some things I wanted to be a little bit more precise about. This is having to do with what happened at the AIAA, American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics website forum. So I wanted to make sure that was explained correctly. So
right, and we made those
kinds of things that I was putting more of my attention to.
Right.
But I read over the overall article and it seemed fine to me.
Yeah. Well, in other words, do you feel that I spun any wording of yours or anything like that?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. And of course the
article. Right on.
Yeah, and of course the article is referencing speed, right?
Well, the article is referencing. Well, the speed is the let's say the critical item in it.
Right.
Although my take on it and the thing I posted at the AIAA site is that there were kind of four problems as I saw it.
Right.
Not necessarily all were problems, but they are all related to speed.
Right, exactly. And
so,
and let's just briefly
kind of the common topic in each
right.
of the four.
And let's just briefly go over all of those that you said are related to speed. You title it "A Responsibility to Explain an Aeronautical Improbability." Now, you feel the speeds are improbable?
Well, I think what's improbable is what has been officially told to the public.
Okay.
So that if you change some of those elements, then maybe the speed was a possibility. I mean, the most obvious one to me is if it turns out that wasn't the same airplane, 767-200 series, vanilla, in the sense that maybe someone modified the flight control system, flight management system, in order to work around any speed issues.
Right,
I don't
achieve
know
those
that
speeds,
that's a
yeah.
possibility.
Just like we
But
point out in the film as well, the possibilities are, either the aircraft was modified or the data is inaccurate. And
right, right. So
that's pretty much
I'm
what
really
you point
looking at
out.
all of these different things that might be different than what we've been officially told.
Right. Now
And
let me.
I can't. It's very improbable that all of them would be correct as presented to us.
Right, right.
And since speed is a key element in all of that, then that really focuses on the speed as a problem.
Right. Now let's just reword the question a little bit. If the government story, as they say, it was November 612 Uniform Alpha, which was a standard 767-200. Of course, never positively identified. None of the four aircraft were. You're aware of that, right?
Yes, I'm aware.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that it was that. How do you feel those speed? Do you feel those speeds would be probable for a standard 767-200?
Well, I think it would be a problem if you kept the flight control system engaged, because I think it would be sending all kinds of signals, stick shakers and things of that sort,
Right.
to make it highly unlikely that the pilot would keep pressing on.
Right. Now.
And then you've got issues just with the airframe itself. And once you're outside of the flight envelope that's been tested and documented as being safe, then that raises a lot of questions. So I've got all those questions it raises become questions that I think would have to be addressed.
Exactly. And now, what happened? You're very familiar with wind tunnels and flight control systems. What normally happens when you start exceeding these VMO limits on control surfaces and whatnot on the airframe?
What happens to the aircraft itself?
Yeah, like control surfaces. What happens to the control surfaces in the airframes? You said there are also.
I would suspect that there would be. Well, flutter is the thing that comes to mind. Most likely, I would think it might be a control surface that flutters.
Okay.
And if it flutters, a flutter is typically an explosive kind of thing.
Right.
Explosive in the sense that it's a very high frequency and it's an undamped oscillation, so it suddenly goes off.
And
once it starts, the pilot can't react.
Right, and usually what
down in that thing. So that certainly would be a major worry to me, that you get into a regime like that.
Right, and what happens to the structure once you get into a high frequency flutter?
Well, who knows? I'm reminded, this is not a transport aircraft, but a number of years back there was concern about general aviation airplanes, and even the question on whether or not the pilot could get into a problem area, a safety hazard, even within the approved flight envelope. And NASA, I guess they purchased a number of general aviation airplanes so they could instrument them and fly them. And one that really comes to mind, it actually fluttered, and this was the horizontal stabilizer. It fluttered, and it didn't actually come off the airplane, but it just flapped around. It was extremely frightening.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, somebody just
caught on by a chase plane on camera. So
yeah, as a matter of fact, Dwayne.
But the thing that happened in all that is the manufacturers were able to prevent NASA from reporting their results.
Oh, really?
And
and this happened below. It happened below. It's within the envelope.
Rights and things like that, and very little got published out of the whole thing.
This actually happened within the aircraft envelope.
Some of it did, yes.
Yeah.
It turned out that some of the general aviation airplanes were not being tested as thoroughly
Right.
in their flight envelope as
We actually have that
they
video
are.
now up on the same thread with your article in it. That you know where the thread is on the forum with your article.
Yes, yeah.
Somebody just actually posted that. It was a twin Comanche, and it's the NASA video. It's a twin Comanche with the horizontal stab that's fluttering all over the place. I couldn't find out exactly what airspeed it was happening at, but they're straight and level, and you just see this thing looking like a rubber band back there. And that's probably the one that you're talking about. So check out the thread. I know you haven't been on it, I think, since yesterday, but check out the thread. Somebody did post that video, so it might be the same one that you're talking about now.
Yeah. I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
It's,
yeah. Now imagine.
Once you've seen it, you're going to remember it.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're talking about this aircraft reported doing speeds 150 knots over its VMO. How do you feel about that?
Well, I mean, that just is, that's so far beyond what, there's so much opportunity for major problems of all sorts.
Yeah.
And so I just feel like one of those problems or a combination of them will bite you.
Yeah.
Bite you in some way. I just don't know how it would turn up, but I have major misgivings that they can just fly along and not be a problem.
Now let's add to that pulling G loads and changing direction at those speeds, 150 knots.
This complicates it further.
I mean, it just.
I mean, the G loads is going to make it a much more of a workload on the pilot, even an experienced pilot.
Well, sure.
To be pulling the G's and also lining up on this whatever path the plane has to be on in order to hit the target. I mean, that's just a very demanding task. And
Yeah.
I would say if you got other things going on, that you also have to be paying attention to, have a stick shaker, warning horns, and things like that, which maybe were turned off. Who knows?
Right.
That just makes it extremely difficult.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Improbable, I guess I'd get to that word.
Yeah.